Hello, Abby here of Sirius B, and we are here at your service this evening.
Welcome. Thanks for coming.
You're welcome. How may we assist you?
The only thing I can come up with is maybe an update on how the consciousness of the planet is doing. Is it increasing? Is it the prospects of major changes seem more likely in the next year or two? Free energy, better medical equipment that can heal disease, things like that.
Yes, we would be happy to answer this question. So there are many human souls bursting forth in spontaneous awakenings at this time, and much of this is due to increased pressure and intensity in these individuals' personal and collective surroundings and situations. However, there is a great need for for organized and visionary efforts to gather up these awakened souls and begin a rudimentary process of explaining, teaching, mentoring, giving them understanding about what lies ahead after an initial awakening, how to shift through emotional and mental changes and the changes that awakening imposes upon relationship dynamics and work engagements and so on. Because without this assistance, they are like seeds scattered to the wind, and the outcomes of their awakenings are like those seeds that can be blown into places where they may or may not take root and produce fruit, you see. And so there is part of what we are asking of this vessel and actually using both she and yourself for is to create growth centers, strategies, and plans for these newly awakened ones. For you see, many of the old souls on the earth are quite comfortable with their old soul friends and their higher vibrational friends with whom they relate and interact, and they have as even in your natural earth culture, older generations sometimes lose touch with younger generations. True, you call this the generation gap. Well, there isn't a gap such as this that exists between the old souls who are highly evolved and enlightened and the young ones awakening. And we really need the old souls to become aware and on alert about this situation and be very strategic and energetic in their efforts to begin to create loving systems of education and support for the newly awakened. In other words, we want these old souls to stop being like a boys' club at the country club, shooting the breeze with one another, and instead get out of that environment and get out and amongst the newly awakened, the young, and begin to be available for relationship and mentoring and reparenting and elevation and expansion of these young ones. Otherwise, they shall be like seed scattered to the wind.
Well, I'm more than happy to do that. How do we round them up?
You are doing it, and they are finding you and coming alongside, and they are happy. And you will know the ones that belong to you, the ones that belong to you that are yours to reparent, that are yours to shepherd, that are yours to lead, are those who are joyfully expectant to be in your presence.
It seems like maybe, though, there's lots of individuals leaving the planet now.
Yes, that is true.
Are they leaving because they would rather skip what's going to be coming on the next 3, 4, 5 years?
Well, it depends upon the soul. There are souls who are seeking for light and illumination for the path, but they are so very oppressed by the culture and the structures of the matrix that their souls are very weary and exhausted. And there seems, especially on a day like today, to be not enough love to go around, you see. And they are very, very tired and wish to exit the body. For, as you know all too well, so well from your energetic work, fears and anxieties and stresses weigh down the body.
Yes.
And this excess baggage, their lack of understanding about how to shed it, how to be free of it, how to live free of it, is causing them to want to go. And so there must be answers for the more difficult questions, and pat answers and short answers and memes will not be adequate. For example, a precious one wrote to the vessel this week. There was a published channel from Osho about that to be in a relationship with one who does not believe that they are creating their own reality is like being dragged through the mud by the heels to one's death. And that quote is not exact, but the idea is that Osho was conveying in the channel is that when you are in relationship with someone who does not believe that they are their own God, they are the creator of their own reality, you will suffer in the relationship with that one because they are blind and there is a lack of understanding.
Yes.
And in response to this channel, a young one wrote back and said, one of these newly awakened ones, I believe what is being said here. However, I struggle when I hear about children that suffer. I struggle understanding this when, for example, my family was in a car accident and someone who was being careless injured myself and my children. Did my children create this reality? And so, you see, to have these pat, trite precepts even though they be true, such as you create your own reality, this does not offer a workable wisdom for a young mother whose children have been injured by someone else in a car accident, you see.
Of course not. Yes, I do see.
And so that this is where persons such as yourselves are desperately needed, because this is an instant society and people want to be able to take their most pressing question and put it in a search engine and receive an instant response. But relationships and energetic entanglements and karmic contracts with various souls and soul families and other interstellar races and so on, these are not simple mechanisms. They can be quite complicated. And so wise ones who have experience, not just in the current life, but old souls who have experiences in many lives, their intuition and instinct and their strong, steady connection to spirit guides is needed to help these ones. And another example would be this vessel received a letter from a young father about whether or not he should divorce. And as you know very well, the answer could be different, slightly or radically different for any individual who came with this question.
Yes.
And one must be careful when one is directing another's life, in the sense that, well, yes, they are responsible for their own decision, but yes, you also must accept responsibility for the spiritual authority that you have and the weight that they attribute to their perception of and understanding of your spiritual authority. And so you have influence, in other words. And so there is a need for ones such as the two of you who walk with circumspectly and reverently, understanding that what you say has weight and can influence and create ripple effects. A very small word, a ripple effect for the good or the bad. And one of the things that we are allowing between the two of you in your relationship right now is for you to feel the weight of your words with one another. For your words are not like feathers. At times they are, but of late they have been more like stones or bricks. So be careful with your words, because they have weight. And if you are going to use your words and they are going to be weighty and have force, then use those bricks to build something, not to injure. And when you can, let your words be light as feathers. Light as feathers.
Yes, no, I haven't done a very good job with that lately. I'm trying, but I'm working on it.
And your wife would say the same. And so what we are allowing is a swift manifestation of your words. Very swift, right on the heels of your words, so that you can begin to understand the equation. Understand the equation that your words bring instant manifestations.
Okay.
Now, there is, your wife has been speaking of this, and we will continue speaking through her, not just myself, but Judah and other entities here, about to this particular audience listening, that There needs to be a radical shift here in that. Understanding that the power to manifest is not just for producing lifestyle and cars and travel and romantic partners. There is a lot more at stake here. And you don't get the gift without the shift. There must be a shift and a willingness to take responsibility for both sides of the coin, heads and tails, positive and negative, in order to be endowed with the level of manifestational power, the magician's power, the alchemic power that you desire. And so one of the things that is happening now is your wife is being allowed. We are not shielding her from the grief she feels in connection to misspoken words and the harm they cause.
So, going back to the question about divorce, what seems like to me, what I've been able to do is what I've realized, I believe that I realize most of the time, the person that asked that question already knows the answer.
That is correct.
And my job is to guide them to that answer. Never, ever would I tell anybody what to do. I might help guide them so that they can come up with that answer and have the courage to follow through on it, but I would never tell anybody what to do.
Exactly. In the same way that you allow children to learn to tie their own shoes and button their own coats and zip up their own jackets and so on.
Yes, I like this story. This is a cute little story. So there was the therapist who told the woman that she needed to get divorced. So about a month later, this woman goes to the therapist's house, knocks on the door, and says, "So I'm separated and getting divorced, but I have no place to stay, so I need to stay with you."
Exactly. Well said. And when this vessel was a very young mother in her first marriage, and many people said, "Leave the bum." But she had enough presence of mind to understand that those people who were so quick with their advice were not going to be taking her in or feeding her children. And in addition, in later years, she as well had a therapist say, "You must leave this person. If you don't leave them, you cannot get well." But she had enough awareness and consciousness to understand that if she left the relationship, she would be missing out on the opportunity for her ego to be confronted, and her ego would be getting a free pass in the exiting of the relationship. So to go or to stay will be different in every situation. And as we've spoken before with the two of you, you are both resolving karmic debts to one another around the issue of abandonment. So the challenge for you will always be, in this lifetime, in your relationship together, to stay. To stay and to stay and to stay and not to abandon. Because this is why you are together at this time. One of the purposes is to resolve the pain and hurt that you caused one another through abandoning one another in former lives. And so the karmic debt will manifest as a push to push you, to pull you towards separation. And so victory and enlightenment is to stay connected. Now, there are others who are destroying the quantum possibilities for the expansion of their soul in this life by staying with a particular partner. And these are, as we said, complex questions for which we are asking the two of you to step up and reparent and direct. For there are also very enlightened souls who are with very earthbound. We will use this is not the best word, but we will use it, unspiritual persons. And they are doing absolutely fine in this sort of coupling. And in some cases, the more unconscious, natural, earthbound partner, it acts as a ballast or an anchor, so that the more spiritually minded and enlightened one can really soar in high realms of consciousness, in higher dimensions even. And so in these pairings, the higher dimensional one needs to be reassured. This is a good pairing. It does not matter that your partner is not spiritually minded. If they love you and can support your curiosity and wonder and your journey, so be it. And then there are other couples in which the pairing is most certainly hindering the growth of one or both. Now, this vessel, as you know, of course, with her divorce, was very inwardly traumatic for her because she had been taught, it had been deeply imprinted on her that divorce is a sin and a betrayal. And at a deeper level, because of this conditioning, she believed herself to have utterly failed in love, failed to be like God, failed to love. And so for some, there is a deep healing work that needs to happen to release guilt and shame and a false sense of betrayal, so that they may move on and upwards in their spiritual evolution. And ultimately, as you taught this vessel, which was so difficult for her to understand in the beginning and took so long, marriage is a contractual agreement that is a construct of modern thinking that was created more or less to create financial stability and safety for women and children. But it is a construct that is beginning to outlive its usefulness in society, and it does not offer any safety or security for women and children. And when one marries, one then adds to their experience in this incarnation the consciousness of wife, or the consciousness of husband, or the consciousness of marriage. And so then one becomes connected to the group consciousness, even the global consciousness of marriage. And so one is taking on a karmic ballast that's not needed in the doing of this. Does that make sense?
Yes.
In the same way that, let's say, if someone was born in a low income third world country with much poverty and racism and classism, then one would be taking on the consciousness of that people group to which they were born. And it would greatly impact their experience. So joining in then the consciousness of marriage adds additional baggage to the evolutionary experience that is not needed. Now, we're not saying we're against being married. If you want to contribute to shifting, elevating, or raising the consciousness of the construct called marriage, so be it. Mm-hmm. But understand that it adds work to your load. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
In the same way, let's say a doctor, for instance, in Western medicine, let's say this doctor has a passion and vision and calling to shift the consciousness within the constructs of Western medicine towards natural forms of healing and away from the overuse and misuse of drugs. Well, if that doctor, that enlightened doctor, wishes to do so, well done. But he is adding to his workload by identifying with the consciousness called Western medicine. Were he to practice medicine on his own, in the way that he pleased, in his own enlightened way, he would not have that ballast for his journey. So this is what we are saying about marriage.
Yes, and I think that there's a lot of doctors who are trying to get out of that by changing the kind of medicine they do. So for a while, alternative medicine was a term that a lot of doctors used, and now the latest thing is, what is it? Latest thing is, holy cow, functional medicine. So it seems like they are changing the name to try and break out of that karma of being a regular doctor.
Yes, but if they are still operating within the collective consciousness of Western medicine, they may be shifting, yes, some of the consciousness of Western medicine. Yes, they can shift it.
But they're also shifting the consciousness, the people that they're attracting to them by doing this might bring a different type patient.
So the question with all of these constructs, marriage, Western medicine, education, so on, is each of these consciousnesses are large, gargantuan, and powerful in the earth. They are like a Titanic. So the question is, can you take the wheel and shift the trajectory of the Titanic, or is it too late?
I never think it's too late. Maybe I shouldn't say never.
So one has to really use discernment there, because you might be able to grab the captain's wheel and turn the ship before it hits the iceberg, or perhaps it's already hit the iceberg and you will just be playing the violin on the deck while people are jumping off. You see.
Yes.
And so this is why many times your wife now will say, my partner, Chuck, and so on, because you two have married for practical, common sense reasons. And in the doing of it, you have also joined yourself to the collective construct and consciousness around marriage. And so your wife says the word partner more often than not, rather than husband and wife, in order to make a statement that the two of you are representing spiritual partnership and the consciousness of partners working together for the evolution of the soul and the raising of global consciousness, and that is your priority over the natural construct of marriage. So to summarize what we are saying this evening, we thank you for your service, and we say to the old souls, be on the lookout for the young awakening ones, that you may gather them up and plant them deep into the soil of wisdom and love and understanding and sound counsel, so that they not be like seed scattered to the wind.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you.